In the subterranean shadows beneath Guanajuato, Mexico, there lies a chilling secret. A row of corpses, mummified, preserved, and contorted in haunting expressions, stand as if still frozen in the moment of death. Their mouths agape, their eyes hollow. It's as though they died screaming. Some swear you can hear them at night, whispering, crying. These are the crying mummies of Guanajuato. And their story is not one of peace, but of pain. Tortured souls trapped in time, victims of plague, poverty, and perhaps something darker. To understand the horror of Guanajuato's mummies, we must begin in the 1830s. The city, nestled in central Mexico's rugged highlands, was booming from silver mining. Wealth pulsed through its veins, but death, too, was close behind. A cholera epidemic swept the land, decimating thousands. The panic-stricken townspeople buried their dead swiftly, often without embalming, identification, or ceremony. In a rush to halt the spread of disease, they unknowingly set the stage for something far stranger. The soil in Guanajuato is unique, dry, mineral-rich, and alkaline. These natural conditions, combined with sealed crypts, inadvertently began to preserve the bodies. Skin turned leathery. Organs shriveled. But faces remained eerily intact. Some say it wasn't just nature that preserved them. In 1865, Mexico passed a new law. Families had to pay a grave tax to keep loved ones buried. If you couldn't afford it, your relatives were exhumed and stored in the municipal ossuary. Workers opening the crypts were horrified. The bodies hadn't decomposed. Many were perfectly preserved, mummies, stiff and cold, their faces contorted in grotesque pain. But why did they look so terrified? Had they been buried alive? There's disturbing evidence to support that theory. Some were found with blood in their mouths, lungs possibly damaged from screams. Others had fingernails torn and broken, as though they'd clawed at their coffins. This is when whispers began. Locals started calling them the Lloronas, the weeping ones. The crying mummies. Word spread of the bizarre corpses, and by the early 1900s, the local authorities turned the ossuary into a public exhibit. For a small fee, you could walk among the dead. It was a grotesque spectacle. The museum now holds over 100 mummies. Some still wear their burial clothes. One is a 6-month-old infant, the world's smallest mummy. Others are twisted in paralyzing screams, as if they're still reliving their final moments. But something about the museum doesn't feel right. Visitors often report a heavy sensation in their chest. Cold hands brushing their shoulders. Some faint. Others say the mummy's eyes follow them. One staff member claimed a mummy turned its head overnight. Surveillance cameras caught nothing. But he never returned to work. Over time, the stories got darker. Some say the mummies are cursed, restless spirits, angry at their disturbed slumber. In one tale, a woman visiting the museum mocked the corpses, laughing loudly at their twisted faces. That night, she awoke to screams. The face of a mummy hovered above her in bed. Days later, she died in a car crash just outside Guanajuato. Coincidence? Or the curse of the crying mummies? Locals now leave small offerings at the museum. Candles. Flowers. Coins. Some whisper prayers to calm the souls. Because if the stories are true, disturbing them comes at a cost. Not everyone believes in the curse. Scientists argue it's simply a quirk of chemistry, soil, heat, dryness. The anguished expressions? Just coincidence. Yet when forensic teams examined the bodies in the early 2000s, they were puzzled. The mummies weren't embalmed. Some had lungs still intact. Some were so well preserved, even hair and eyelashes remained. How? And why do so many show signs of trauma, broken limbs, shattered teeth, crushed ribs? Experts debated. But the cries continued. In 2007, a team left an audio recorder overnight in the museum. They captured faint noises, footsteps, whispering, crying. The building was empty. The tape has never been explained. Every culture has its ghosts. But the mummies of Guanajuato are different. They're not spirits floating in the dark. They're still here. Visible. Touchable. Screaming without breath. One story tells of a young miner named Mateo, buried in a mass grave after the cholera outbreak. His lover claimed to hear his voice every night. When his body was exhumed, his face was frozen mid-scream. A priest fainted at the sight. They say his mummy sometimes shifts positions. Another tale tells of a child who vanished near the museum. Search dogs tracked the scent inside, but found nothing. Days later, her drawing appeared on the wall, showing her holding hands with a mummy. Today, the crying mummies still stand. Dressed in death. Locked in glass. But their stories aren't over. Every few years, a new tale emerges. Someone faints. A camera malfunctions. A visitor sees tears rolling down a mummy's cheek. Some even claim to have heard names whispered. So if you ever walk the narrow stone halls of Guanajuato, be quiet. Listen closely. The dead do not like to be mocked. And if you hear crying in the dark, it might not be the wind.